The scream shattered the stillness of the house, piercing through the walls of the master bedroom where Alex sat hunched over a laptop, fingers frozen mid-sentence as the sound ricocheted down the hallway like a gunshot signaling chaos. Downstairs, the clamor of furniture scraping against hardwood and voices rising in frantic bursts sent a chill racing up Alex's spine, and without thinking, they bolted from the room, bare feet pounding against the floor. Drawn toward the commotion that threatened to upend the quiet Thursday night they'd planned to spend alone. Bursting into the living room, Alex found their parents, Susan and Mark, wrestling with a heavy suitcase while Jamie, their cousin, all broad shoulders and disheveled hair, stood in the doorway, his face flushed with a mix of exhaustion and something darker. Something that made the air feel thick with unspoken urgency. "What's happening?" Alex demanded, their voice cutting through the chaos, hands clenched at their sides as they took in the scene. Susan's tight-lipped determination, Mark's furrowed brow, and Jamie's darting eyes that refused to meet theirs, and the suitcase toppled over, spilling clothes and a glinting metal object onto the rug, something that looked suspiciously like a knife, though no one else seemed to notice. Susan straightened up, smoothing her blouse as if composure could erase the tension, and fixed Alex with a look that brooked no argument, her voice steady despite the tremble in her hands. "Jamie's moving in right now, and we've decided he's taking the master bedroom," she announced, and the words hit Alex like a physical blow, their knees nearly buckling as they processed the betrayal woven into that casual declaration. The room that had been theirs for years suddenly stripped away without so much as a discussion. "You can't be serious. The master bedroom? That's my room, Mom. You gave it to me, promised it was mine," Alex protested, their gaze swinging between Susan and Mark, searching for a crack in their resolve. But Mark stepped forward, his tone gruff and final, cutting off any hope of negotiation. "It's done, Alex. Jamie needs the space more than you do. He's got work to set up, and the en-suite bathroom makes it practical," he said, and Alex's chest tightened, the sting of favoritism burning hotter as Jamie lingered silently by the door, avoiding their glare while Susan began dragging the suitcase toward the stairs. "But why now? Why like this?" Alex pressed, their voice rising with a mix of hurt and desperation. Because this wasn't just about losing a room, it was about being shoved aside, again, for Jamie, the cousin who'd always been the shining star in their parents' eyes, the one who got the praise, the attention, the forgiveness no matter what he did. Susan paused, turning back with a sigh that carried years of unspoken burdens, and her next words only deepened the wound. "He's been through hell with the divorce, Alex. He needs stability, and we're all he's got. You'll manage in the guest room. It's not forever," she said. And Jamie finally spoke, his voice low and strained, cutting through the room like a blade. "I didn't ask for this. I told them I'd take the couch, but they insisted," he muttered, and Alex wanted to believe him, wanted to see sincerity in those tired eyes, but the knife on the floor glinted in their peripheral vision, whispering doubts they couldn't ignore. Alex stormed upstairs, the argument still echoing in their ears, and began yanking clothes from the dresser in the master bedroom, each item a tether to a space they'd thought was untouchable. Their hands shaking with fury and something like grief as they stuffed everything into bags. Susan followed, hovering in the doorway, her voice softer now, almost pleading as she tried to smooth over the rift. "We're not doing this to hurt you. It's just what's best for everyone," she said. But Alex didn't respond, didn't trust themselves to speak without screaming, and as they shoved the mattress aside to grab a stray sock, a folded envelope slipped out, tumbling to the floor with a faint rustle that stopped them cold. Curiosity overpowered their anger, and they snatched it up, unfolding it to reveal a letter addressed to Jamie, the crisp law firm letterhead stark against the page, and the words inside sent their pulse racing. "Mr. Jamie, per our confidential agreement, your relocation must remain undisclosed to your family. Any breach could jeopardize the arrangement. Expect further instructions soon." Alex's breath hitched, their fingers tightening around the paper as footsteps thudded up the stairs. Jamie, coming to claim the room, and they shoved the letter into their pocket, mind spinning with questions as the truth dawned. This wasn't just about a divorce or favoritism. Jamie was running from something, and their parents might be in on it. The guest room smelled of dust and neglect, its narrow walls pressing in on Alex as they shoved their bags into the corner, the sting of displacement fueling every jerky movement while the letter in their pocket seemed to pulse with unspoken secrets. Downstairs, the sounds of Jamie settling into the master bedroom drifted through the floorboards, drawers sliding open, muffled conversation with Susan and Mark, and Alex gritted their teeth, determined to confront their cousin despite the late hour. Because letting this fester overnight felt like surrender, and they refused to be the one who just rolled over again. Grabbing a hoodie, they slipped downstairs, avoiding the creaky third step, and found Jamie alone in the kitchen, hunched over a glass of water, his broad frame slouched in a way that suggested exhaustion or guilt, though Alex couldn't tell which. "We need to talk now," Alex said, planting themselves across from him, arms crossed tight, and Jamie looked up, his eyes shadowed but sharp, offering no hint of what lay beneath that guarded stare. "I don't know what you want me to say. I didn't plan this," he replied, voice rough, and Alex leaned forward, searching his face for cracks, unwilling to let him dodge the question they hadn't even asked yet. "You didn't plan this, but you're not telling us everything. Why the rush, Jamie? What's really going on?" Alex pressed, their tone sharp enough to cut through his vague excuses, because the letter's cryptic words looped in their mind, each one a thread begging to be pulled, and Jamie's jaw tightened, his fingers tapping the glass in a rhythm that betrayed unease. "It's just the divorce, messy, complicated. You wouldn't get it," he said, but the deflection only stoked Alex's frustration, and they slammed a hand on the table, the sound jolting them both as the room seemed to shrink around their rising voices. "Don't lie to me. I deserve to know why I'm being kicked out of my own room for you," Alex snapped, and Jamie stood abruptly, chair scraping back, his sudden movement filling the space with tension as he loomed over them, not threatening but desperate. His next words halting but deliberate. "You think I wanted to drag you into this? I told them to leave you out of it, but they wouldn't listen," he said, and Alex's pulse quickened, catching the slip. "Drag you into this," as if there were layers to peel back, a truth their parents might already grasp. Before Alex could demand more, the kitchen door swung open, and Susan stormed in, her face a mask of irritation, hair disheveled from the late-night upheaval, her presence snuffing out the fragile thread of honesty Jamie had dangled. "What's all this noise? It's nearly midnight. Can't you two sort this out tomorrow?" she hissed, and Alex turned on her, the anger they'd bottled up spilling over, because her interruption felt like a shield thrown up to protect Jamie, not them. "No, Mom, we can't. Why are you so set on giving him my room? What aren't you telling me?" Alex demanded, and Susan's eyes flicked to Jamie, a silent exchange that Alex caught and clung to, their suspicion hardening into certainty that this wasn't just favoritism, it was collusion. "We've been over this. He needs the space, and you're making it harder than it has to be," she said, but her voice wavered, and Alex stepped closer, unwilling to let her retreat behind practicality again. "Then why does it feel like you're hiding something? Like you're choosing him over me, again?" they asked, and Susan flinched, her hands twisting together, but before she could answer, Mark's voice boomed from the hallway, heavy with exhaustion and warning. "Enough, Alex, go to bed. We're not doing this now," he ordered, and the finality in his tone forced Alex back, their resolve crumbling under the weight of being dismissed yet again. Retreating to the guest room, Alex locked the door, their breath uneven as they pulled the letter from their pocket, rereading it under the dim glow of a desk lamp, each line tightening the knot in their stomach. "Confidential agreement, relocation. Undisclosed to your family," and they began to piece together a theory, wild but insistent, that Jamie's divorce was a cover, that he'd fled something bigger, something their parents might be tangled into. The next morning, determined to dig deeper, Alex slipped out early, heading to the library to use the public computers, searching Jamie's name online, but the results were maddeningly sparse. Divorce records, yes, but nothing else. Until a buried forum post caught their eye, anonymous and fleeting, mentioning a JM tied to a shady investment deal gone south, a deal that had cops circling and investors furious. It wasn't proof, but it was enough to make Alex's hands shake as they printed the page, the words blurring as they realized this might explain the knife, the haste, the secrecy, and then their phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Stop looking, or you'll regret it," chilling them to the bone, because someone knew they were digging, and that someone wasn't family. Back home, Alex hid the printout and letter under the guest room mattress, their mind racing as new obstacles piled up, the police angle from the forum, the threatening message, and their parents' unshakable loyalty to Jamie, who'd now recruited a friend, a wiry guy named Trent, to help him move more boxes into the master bedroom, his presence an unspoken barrier between Alex and answers. "Who's this now?" Alex muttered, watching Trent haul equipment upstairs, and Jamie brushed it off, his tone too casual. "Just a buddy helping out, don't worry about it," he said. But Trent's cold stare lingered on Alex, a warning that matched the text, and the weight of isolation grew, their family slipping further out of reach, their friends too busy to care. Leaving Alex to face this unraveling mess alone, clutching the first piece of a hidden truth, Jamie wasn't just running from a divorce, He was running from consequences, and their parents were helping him hide. The guest room had become Alex's war room, its cramped space littered with scribbled notes and the crumpled forum printout, each scrap of paper a lifeline as they paced late into the night. The threatening text still glowing on their phone screen like an accusation they couldn't shake. Sleep eluded them, replaced by a restless energy that drove them to dig deeper, and when the house fell silent, Jamie and Trent upstairs, Susan and Mark snoring in their bedroom, Alex crept to the kitchen, laptop in tow. Intent on cross-referencing the law firm from Jamie's letter with the investment deal hint from the forum, because every instinct screamed that the pieces were connected, that the truth was close enough to touch. Logging into a public records site, their fingers flew across the keys, but the results were frustratingly vague, until a shadow fell across the table, and Alex jolted, slamming the laptop shut as a voice, low and unfamiliar, broke the stillness. "You're digging into something you shouldn't. I can help, but you've got to trust me," it said, and Alex spun around, heart pounding, to find a woman standing by the back door, her dark hair tied back, her posture tense but not hostile. A stranger who'd slipped into their home unnoticed. "Who are you? How'd you get in here?" Alex demanded, standing to face her, their voice a mix of fear and defiance, because this wasn't Trent or some thug sent to silence them. This was someone new, someone who carried herself with quiet purpose, and she raised her hands, palms out, as if to prove she meant no harm. "Name's Riley. I picked the lock. Didn't want to ring the bell and wake your cousin's guard dog," she said, nodding toward the stairs where Trent slept, and Alex's mind raced, torn between bolting and listening, but her next words hooked them, pulling them closer despite the risk. "I've been tracking Jamie for weeks. He's tied to a deal that burned a lot of people, and I think you're caught in it now," she added, and Alex hesitated, then gestured to a chair, their curiosity outweighing caution. Because this stranger might be the key to unraveling the mess Jamie had dragged into their life. "Why me? Why help me?" Alex asked, and Riley sat, her gaze steady, her voice dropping as she leaned in, offering a lifeline they hadn't expected. "I saw you at the library today, printing that forum post. You're not just some bystander, you're in deep, and I need someone inside to confirm what I suspect," she said, and Alex swallowed hard, realizing Riley wasn't just an ally, she was a gamble. Together, they pored over the laptop, Riley guiding Alex through encrypted files she'd brought on a USB drive, her knowledge of the investment scheme, a real estate scam that had collapsed, leaving investors broke and cops sniffing around. Filling in gaps the forum post had only hinted at, and Alex's hands shook as they matched the law firm's name to a shell company buried in the records. Emboldened, they decided to take a risk, sneaking upstairs to the master bedroom while Trent slept on the couch, Riley keeping watch as Alex rifled through Jamie's boxes, searching for anything concrete, bank statements, contracts, proof. But their fingers brushed a locked metal case under the bed, too heavy to move quietly, and frustration gnawed at them as they retreated empty-handed. "He's covering his tracks. We need more time," Riley whispered as they slipped back downstairs, but the law stung, the case taunting Alex with its inaccessibility, and their resolve hardened, they'd break it open somehow, even if it meant pushing harder. Risking more. By dawn, Riley was gone, leaving a burner phone and a promise to return, but Alex's fragile hope shattered when Susan cornered them at breakfast, her face pale, her voice trembling with something like fear. "Someone was in the house last night. I found the back door unlocked. What's going on, Alex?" she asked, and Alex froze, their lie clumsy but quick. "I went for a walk, couldn't sleep," they said. But Susan's eyes narrowed, unconvinced, and the gap between them widened, trust fraying as Alex hid Riley's involvement. Later, alone in the guest room, Alex dialed Riley on the burner, their voice hushed as they recounted Susan's suspicion, and Riley's response came fast, urgent, pushing them toward a bolder move. "We can't wait. Meet me tonight at the old warehouse on 5th. I've got a lead on Jamie's partner," she said, and Alex agreed, slipping out after dark, the burner tucked in their pocket, adrenaline surging as they reached the rundown building. Riley waiting with a stack of photos, Jamie meeting a suited man, handing over envelopes, timestamps from weeks ago. "This is it, proof he's still active, not just hiding," Riley said, but before Alex could process it, she pulled out a final document, a scanned email from Jamie to the law firm, and the words on the page flipped everything Alex thought they knew. "Susan and Mark are in. Tell them to keep Alex out, or the deal's off," dated a month ago, before Jamie even arrived. Alex's knees buckled, the betrayal crashing over them. Their parents weren't just favoring Jamie, they were part of a scheme, deliberately shielding him while sacrificing Alex, and the secret burned, reshaping every memory, every argument, into a lie they'd never suspected. The warehouse air hung heavy with dust and the faint tang of rust, and Alex stood frozen, the scanned email trembling in their hands as Riley's flashlight beam danced across the concrete floor, illuminating the damning words. Susan and Mark's complicity in Jamie's scheme that had shattered every shred of trust they'd clung to since this nightmare began. Riley paced nearby, her voice cutting through the silence, urgent and insistent as she laid out their next move, because waiting wasn't an option now, not with the truth exposed and Trent's footsteps echoing somewhere in the night. Closing in after tailing them from the house. "We've got enough to go to the cops, those photos, this email, it's solid. We can end this tonight," she said, and Alex nodded, their throat tight, because confronting Jamie and their parents felt like stepping into a fire they might not survive, but the alternative, living in a house of lies, was worse, and they pocketed the email, steeling themselves for the fight ahead. Driving back, Riley's burner phone buzzed incessantly, texts from an unknown source warning them to back off, but Alex ignored it, their resolve hardening with every mile, until they pulled into the driveway, the house looming dark and silent. A deceptive calm that wouldn't last. Inside, Alex marched upstairs, Riley trailing close, and flung open the master bedroom door, finding Jamie hunched over that locked metal case, a screwdriver in hand, his face snapping up in shock as they stormed in. The air crackling with the weight of unspoken accusations. "Tell me everything, right now, or I'm done protecting you," Alex demanded, their voice steady despite the chaos churning inside, and Jamie stood, screwdriver clattering to the floor, his hands raised as if to ward off the inevitable. His eyes darting to Riley like she was a threat he hadn't anticipated. "You don't know what you're doing. This isn't your fight," he said, but Alex stepped closer, pulling the email from their pocket and thrusting it toward him, the paper shaking as they forced him to face it. "It became my fight when you and Mom and Dad decided to sell me out. What's in that case, Jamie? What are you hiding that's worth all this?" they asked, and Jamie's shoulders slumped, his defiance crumbling. But before he could answer, Trent burst in, his wiry frame filling the doorway, a phone pressed to his ear as he barked orders to someone on the other end. His glare locking onto Alex and Riley with cold precision. "You shouldn't have brought her here. This ends now," Trent snarled, advancing with a speed that caught Alex off guard, and Riley lunged, shoving him back, giving Alex a split second to grab the case and bolt, their legs pumping as they raced downstairs, the weight of it dragging at their arm while shouts erupted behind them. Susan and Mark stumbled into the living room, woken by the noise, their faces a mix of confusion and panic, and Alex skidded to a halt, holding the case like a shield, their voice breaking as they turned on their parents, the betrayal spilling out in a flood they couldn't contain. "You knew. You helped him hide whatever this is, and you let me take the fall. How could you?" they yelled, and Susan reached out, tears streaking her face, her words tumbling over each other in a desperate plea. "We didn't want you hurt. We thought we could fix it, keep you safe," she said, but Mark grabbed her arm, pulling her back, his tone harsh as he glared at Alex. "Drop it. We're family. You don't turn on us," he said, and the words twisted the knife deeper, because family wasn't supposed to feel like this, like a trap closing around them. Trent barreled down the stairs, Riley wrestling to hold him off, and the chaos peaked as he broke free, lunging for the case, his fingers grazing it before Alex swung it hard, catching him in the chest and sending him sprawling. The impact jarring their arms but buying precious seconds. Jamie appeared, breathless, his voice hoarse as he shouted over the fray, a confession ripping free that froze everyone in place. "It's money, laundered cash from the deal. I was supposed to move it, but it went wrong. And they're coming for it," he said, and the room fell silent, the truth landing like a stone, unmovable and ugly, until sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. "Riley's doing," her call to the police made when Trent showed up. Alex dropped the case, its lock popping open to reveal stacks of bills spilling onto the floor, and Susan gasped, Mark swearing under his breath, while Trent scrambled to his feet, only to freeze as red and blue lights flashed through the windows, the law closing in faster than anyone could run. Alex sank to their knees, exhaustion crashing over them, but a spark of defiance flared as they looked at Jamie, then their parents, their voice quiet but firm. "You chose this, not me. I'm done carrying it," they said, and as the cops stormed in, cuffing Trent and demanding answers, Alex stood, drawing on a strength they hadn't known they had, deciding in that moment to walk away, to let the truth tear it all down. The living room buzzed with chaos as the police swarmed in, their boots thudding against the hardwood while Alex stood rooted by the spilled cash, the open metal case a silent witness to the unraveling of their family. And the weight of their decision to let it all collapse pressed down like a physical force they could neither escape nor regret. Jamie sat handcuffed on the couch, head bowed, his confession still ringing in the air, laundered money, a failed deal, threats from faceless partners, while Trent shouted obscenities from the floor, pinned by two officers, his wiry frame no match for their grip. And Susan clung to Mark, her sobs muffled against his shoulder as he stared blankly at the wall, the reality of their complicity sinking in with every barked order from the cops. Riley lingered near the door, her burner phone still in hand, her quiet nod to Alex a lifeline in the storm, and though the sirens had faded, the flashing lights painted the room in stark pulses, stripping away the last pretense of normalcy that had held this house together. Alex stepped back, their breath steadying, and watched it all unfold. The victory of exposing the truth soured by the cost, family ties severed, trust shattered, a future now uncertain, but theirs to claim. An officer approached, notepad in hand, his voice clipped but calm as he began firing questions, and Alex answered mechanically, recounting the letter, the forum post, Riley's evidence. Each detail a brick in the wall they were building to bury Jamie's lies and their parents' betrayal. "You found the email and knew they were involved?" he asked, and Alex nodded, pulling the crumpled paper from their pocket, handing it over as Susan's head snapped up, her eyes wide with panic, her voice breaking as she lunged toward them, only to be held back by Mark. "Alex, don't, please. We didn't mean for this. We were protecting him, not hurting you," she pleaded, and Alex met her gaze, their own voice flat, hollowed out by the night's revelations. "You chose him over me, every step. You picked his secrets over my life," they said, and Mark stepped forward, his face flushed, his words a desperate grab at control. "We're still your parents. You can't just throw us away," he said. But Alex turned away, the words meaningless against the evidence scattered across the floor, the cash and cuffs louder than any apology they could muster. Riley pulled Alex aside as the police hauled Jamie and Trent out, her hand firm on their shoulder, her voice low but steady, offering a path forward that felt both liberating and daunting. "You've got options now: testify, walk away, start over. I'll back you up either way," she said, and Alex exhaled, the weight of choice settling in, because staying meant facing courtrooms and questions, while leaving meant cutting ties completely, abandoning the house, the room, the life they'd known for something uncharted. They slipped outside, the cool night air hitting their face as the police vans pulled away, and stood on the lawn, staring at the house, the master bedroom window dark, the guest room light flickering until Susan emerged, her footsteps hesitant, her voice trembling as she tried one last time to bridge the gap. "We can fix this, move past it, be a family again," she said, and Alex studied her, the woman who'd raised them now a stranger, their response slow, deliberate, carrying the finality of a door closing. "I don't know if I want that. You made your choice, now I'm making mine," they said, and Susan's hands fell to her sides, defeated, as Alex turned to Riley, nodding toward the car, ready to leave but not yet sure where they'd go. Hours later, in a diner miles from home, Alex sat across from Riley, coffee cooling between them, the hum of late-night chatter filling the silence as they wrestled with the aftermath. The victory of ending Jamie's scheme tangled with the ache of losing everything else. "Do you think they'll get out of it, talk their way free?" Alex asked, and Riley shrugged, her fingers tapping the mug, her answer blunt but honest. "Maybe money buys lawyers, and they'll pin it on Jamie if they can. Depends on how much the cops dig," she said, and Alex leaned back, the moral dilemma gnawing at them: should they testify, ensure their parents faced consequences, or let fate decide? Walk away and leave the ruins behind? The cash, the lies, the room they'd fought for, all of it felt distant now, a price paid for a truth they couldn't unlearn. And as Riley slid a motel key across the table, offering a place to crash, Alex took it, their voice quiet but firm. "I need time, figure out what's next," they said, and Riley nodded, leaving them with the question hanging unanswered, a choice between justice and freedom that would shape whatever came after. Driving away, Alex glanced in the rearview mirror, the house shrinking into the night, and felt the bittersweet pull of release: no master bedroom, no family, but a chance to rebuild, to define themselves beyond the wreckage, though the cost lingered. A shadow they'd carry forward. The road stretched ahead, empty and endless, and as they turned the corner, disappearing into the dark, the question remained: had they won, or had they simply survived, and was that enough?